So we've been talking so much about, AI, artificial intelligence, et cetera. And obviously we do a ton of work for clients in regards to SEO. AI is changing that day by day, week by week. So one of the things I wanted to cover is how AI is going to change the future of SEO. And I wanted to put together a couple of things here. First, I wanted to bring up something that everybody loves, where I get super technical and everybody clicks off, right?
Takes a nap.
Exactly. So part of the whole AI thing is, in regards to Google and search engine optimization, is a component called RankBrain. So I think it's kind of a cool name. But most people, even if they've heard of it, most of them haven't heard of it, or they've heard of it and they don't know what it means. So I want to go a little bit over the top in terms of technical and talk about what RankBrain is. So RankBrain is a component of Google's core algorithm, which uses machine learning, or AI, the ability of machines to teach themselves from data inputs to determine the most relevant results to search engine queries. So before RankBrain, Google utilized its basic algorithm to determine which results to show for a given query. Still with me? All right, good.
Barely.
Oh, there too. Right. All right. I'm speeding it up. All right. Post RankBrain, it's believed that the query now goes through an interpretation model that can apply possible factors like the location of the searcher, personalization, which we'll get into in a little bit, and the words of the query determine the searcher's true intent. So by discerning this true intent, Google can deliver more relevant results. And Google search liaison, Danny Sullivan, also confirmed in 2019 that RankBrain is now being used for every search query.
Right, because it used to only be applied to brand new searches that had never been searched before
Correct.
on Google, and that makes up for, it did then and still does, makes up for about 15% of all searches.
Right.
So now RankBrain is being used on every single search.
So let's put that in layperson's terms. Every single search that you do now is influenced in some way by AI. So people think, hey, I'm just typing this in Google, it's giving me, no. Every search you do is influenced by AI. That's how big this thing has become now. Whether or not
AI.
What's that? And influences it in return. So it's this big giant pattern. Circle. Yeah. So it's not just, AI is not ready yet. AI hasn't arrived yet. No. It's been happening since 2019 in its full capacity, right? So every search that you're doing is run through and also influencing and training AI. So the way that you have to optimize for that is obviously going to change because they're aware of so many things now, right?
And sorry, really quick, can I just summarize too the more technical explanation of what RankBrain is too? A way that I have read it be put, which was terrible English, but is that
you're a writer too, right?
Right. Yeah. Put your faith in me. I'll write
I got
words
it.
that sound
full faith.
pretty.
Please continue.
Good English.
Good English.
They elaborated on their Hummingbird algorithm, but
which we have a blog post on our website about, by the way.
It revolutionized search in the way that it took Google search from strings-based results to things-based. So that's kind of what you're talking about with more of like the meaning and personalization. Instead of just like looking for like data and words that connect, results to the search that you're searching, it can actually understand like the meaning behind words and images and see
which previously you could just stuff a whole bunch of stuff in there. Not that we ever participated in that. However, it was much easier to rank with much less effort. Whereas now, even in our efforts, we've had to increase the time, increase to some degree the cost because there's so much more that goes into it. So let's just kind of bring this full circle and talk about why this is important to businesses, right? Why should people care about RankBrain or this AI scary weird thing? Right? Why should I care about that? Well, because all of the stuff that's leading people to your business is controlled by it, right? And we, as the agency that's hired by these businesses, have to understand it. So this is the reason that we're putting together this video so you can better understand it. So I did put together a list of 4 basic things just to really focus in on so that people can understand if they're doing it themselves, if their agency is still in some tried and true, SEO plan that isn't working, how you can utilize AI and not be scared of it. Because I think a lot of people, once they hear about it, they get kind of freaked out by it, right? It's like, how do I use AI? I don't know how to do that. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing. And we've talked about it repeatedly here. Once, Google started announcing they're going to incorporate it more. Obviously, we've done videos on the Microsoft ChatGPT thing, the merger of those things. Anyway, I'm droning on. So number 1 is optimizing your visual content. So let's talk about what visual content is. So videos, images, graphics. With AI, it's a little bit different than previously. So they're able to see what images, videos, and graphics actually contain. So they can read what this is about. They can see what's being said in the video, right? If you look at YouTube now, you can see how it compartmentalizes and chops up your video into, hey, you can skip ahead to here because it knows what it's saying and it knows what the video is about, right? Huge thing. Most people, they don't have any idea how to optimize a video. They don't have an idea on optimizing images, anything, right? Now, when you're taking that on its own, maybe it's not so important, but when you're trying to rank aggressively versus competitors and you've just got a whole bunch of fluff and the search engine and the AI can't figure out what it's about, take that to your competitor who's using the right verbiage, the right meta, the right sources, the right images, the right tagging. It's all more cohesive, right? So
and actually has those media there. It's not just just
correct.
One picture or whatever.
Right, one picture.
Or somebody else's YouTube that is just like a general,
right. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this here in a second because of relevancy is just such a big thing, right? It's more so than it ever has been. So first things first, make sure your visual stuff is optimized and that you're always talking about things that are relevant to whatever you're trying to rank for. Again, seems fairly standard, but again, there's AI reading into what you have. So number 2, talk about relevance. Quality and relevance are the new ranking factors. So RankBrain is an artificial intelligence change that attempts to understand the context of contents on websites. So as it gets better at analyzing search intent, it's more important than ever to get the keyword research right. So this goes back to what we were talking about in some of our other videos, keyword research. We talked about not always going after the one that's the highest volume, but more so the highest relevancy. We talked about example with plumbers. I think we went on like a veterinarian, thing for a bit. But at its core, it was really about just the relevancy. So I might target something that only has 50 searches a month, but that's going to be the true 50 people that are ready to hire me versus the 500,000 because I target some high-level keyword that doesn't really matter.
And then are you even going to show up at all? Are you going to get in front of any people's eyes versus getting in front of, 40 out of 50 of the people that are searching that term?
Right.
Versus out of the hundreds of thousands of people that are searching, but, your result isn't really relevant to that search. So, there's 20, 30 other, results before you even are, shown.
Well, and this kind of brings it back to one of the quotes that I had here. It says, so rather than older factors like keyword density, things like content, relevance, context, and value are going to be more important ranking factors than just here's a bunch of keywords, right? And we still see this on sites all the time. One that we take over from other agencies, it's like either it's a total lack of keywords or it's a total overabundance of keywords, right? Where it's literally in like almost every sentence, you're like, okay, I get it, right?
Right. It doesn't
this is
read
what you,
naturally.
it doesn't read
it's not
naturally.
helpful to the user in that way.
Well, not just reading, but conversational, right? So that goes into, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, optimizing for voice. So for people that don't know, voice is not just some minor thing. It's not 5%, okay? It's 40% of all searches that are done globally. That's huge, right? You think about how many billions and trillions of searches that are done. I mean, I don't even have the number in front of me, but it's fun just to imagine. How many searches do you think are done on the search engine in a month?
Or like even 1 second.
1 second, 100%. So take that massive number that you have in your head, 40% of it, right, is all done through voice. And the biggest thing about voice is it's completely different in how a spoken sentence is different than a typed sentence. So I do have a couple of examples here.
Or if you even would type a sentence. When you're searching, you would just search
word, because it's about efficiency, right? Particularly for me, people that don't type that fast compared to the people sitting around me. I'm much more direct in what I type in. But when I search for things on Google via voice, it's much more longer tail. It's more conversational. So let's bring up a couple of examples. So for example, we're very precise when we type. You type something like best pizza place, New York City, right, into a search bar. But if you're going to do a voice search, you'd say something like, hey Siri, what's the best place to get pizza in New York City, right? Totally different. And granted, they are the same thing, but depending upon how they're going to optimize them, you're going to get 2 different results for that. Maps will come into play. Go ahead, Maya.
My Siri just pulled up a map result, Party Bear Pizza.
There you go.
Near me, so thanks for that.
Well, the voice searches, they're getting longer and more conversational because as AI gets better, you're able to ask it more natural conversational types of questions. Right?
Think about people that aren't as natural texters and that use voice to text, and then they just naturally use that for all their phone functions. So then they are using that for all their,
what I've
also
seen
be for
go ahead.
or just in general, people with mobility issues or people that are older.
Right, that's a
Accessibility.
It's a new way.
Well, I also think that
or
you see more older people that are, hey, just call me versus all the texting back and forth. I do think you're going to see that dramatically grow because they are making it simpler. Right now it's just pretty much one button. You just hold it down and, hey, find me this or do this. Mm-hmm. And we've also seen that in the growth of the devices such as like the HomePod and the Alexa, and there's tons of different sources to where it says, hey, find this thing for me, right? I think where that's going to get further complex is, granted, you're going to have to optimize in a different way, but also with the AI and being able to better track your history, if you don't have that turned off, is the use of personalized search results, right? So where it gets personal, it's like, we talk about this where you kind of get caught in your own little search bubble. It's like if you search, let's say you only eat pizza, to use our pizza analogy, right? You say, hey, show me restaurants around me. Well, somebody who goes to a bunch of different restaurants is going to have a completely different showcase of SERPs than what you're going to have, because it's going to say, hey, you've liked pizza a lot in the past. Here's all the pizza places near you, right? Because it knows that you like pizza, which is definitely another challenge, but I think that one can be easily overcome just by using the more user-friendly conversational type of searches. So last thing, and this is a big one, we talk about link building here quite a bit, right? It's a core foundation of our SEO practices. One of the things that I see changing with AI is that they're going to be better understanding of links. And what I mean by that is, let's get specific. So there's this general consensus in the SEO world where more backlinks the better. High domain authority, always, high domain authority, high quantity of those. That's going to be changing a bit. And one of my predictions is that websites with strong domain authority, lots of links, currently link back to mediocre content. And as the AI gets better, they're going to have a better understanding of the relationships between what is linking and what it's linking to, right? So I have a bunch of words on this irrelevant website that's not about, let's go back to pizza because it's easy and fun to talk about, right? And it's tasty. So for pizza, if I was linking back to a pizza website from a high domain authority salad website, it kind of puts those things at odds, right? It's not a natural match. So as AI continues to develop, what you're going to start seeing is a less focus, even though they're high domain authority, which is going to scare a lot of people, right? Even though it's a high domain authority, they're going to put less emphasis and place less value on that because it's not relevant.
Well, I think that's already happening, or at least that's already incorporated into our strategy. Is it's not just all about numbers. I think
relevancy.
We could talk about all these technical, updates to algorithms and all of that, but ultimately the theme I've seen across the updates over the last year or even 2 years, and specifically as we talk about AI and everything, is the bottom line, the slug, the headline, whatever you want to say, is just that it's becoming more and more user focused and less about, there's less of a dichotomy between, oh, we're really writing or we're really, optimizing for Google or for search engines versus the user. I think more and more they're getting better at understanding the end user. And so ultimately, no matter what the technical details are, everything comes down to, is it useful and is it serving, your audience, the user that you're trying to reach?
And it's
interesting. Good SEO practices.
Correct. But it's interesting the way that you look at that versus the way that I look at it. And we're both looking at the same, just differently, right? So you're looking at like what's good for the user. I'm looking at it like, how can this AI dive deeper into this thing to make it more relevant, right? Because we just talked about how it's going to be able to understand what's in a video, right? And we talked about how it automatically can create segments within a video to get you to the fastest part, right? On a metaphorical level, it's doing the same for everything, right? It's doing that same thing for images. It's saying, hey, this is a picture of an elephant, or this is a picture of a giraffe, and I know that that's what this is, because you can even go to, what's that OpenAI tool where it's got the image generation?
Well, I've talked in the past about Canva, how they had started one where you can type in, describe what you want, and they'll like create something out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's multiple ones.
Right.
We don't have to, nobody's paying us to say any of them, so why promote them, right?
Well, probably a good thing because we're saying some critical things too. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So exactly. And even if they were paying us, which they're not, I'd still be critical of anything.
They
because
probably wouldn't want to pay us at that point. So
it's okay. Anyway.
Anarchy.
But it's very crucial to understand that with AI, you're looking at knowledge on an exponential level of all things. It's not limited by us. Like we can look at this thing and say, okay, this is what I think about this. This is what I think this is. And honestly, your brain's really fast. It can pick up on stuff, but it's doing that many millions and millions times over. It's able to interpret something at a much deeper level at speed, right? We can interpret something at a great deeper level, but we're slower at it, right?
Well, but it can only interpret that based on existing content that's in the world.
That is a limitation of it. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But when we're talking about like completely rounding something out, right? What's better for the user? So if I type in, XYZ versus ABC, right? Insert whatever phrase you want there. It's going to be better able to articulate this is specifically what you mean, and then show you things that are only specific to that because it's crawled through so much data.
Right, and back to the personalization thing, like it goes
which
off
adds a whole nother layer to it.
Right, goes off of previous searches because I see that all the time where like I'll type one thing in and then it'll be a new I'll search something else, but they'll already know that I'm on that topic that relates to that first search that I had done. But to the the larger point that we're talking about with how AI will change and revolutionize SEO. Another like thing that comes to mind for me is from our point of view, from like the SEO, specialist or strategist.
Business
or
use
whatever.
case versus
Right.
general theory.
Right. Because, it is the first thing that comes to mind a lot of times when you hear about AI is like, oh, they're going to take our jobs. And there's a lot of good points where we already use tools that help us do our job better. But then one thing that I was thinking about is like Google Analytics and GA4 that they have been rolling out
For years.
Right.
It's coming soon though, where
and
they're mandating it. Yeah.
That to me is a good example because it uses machine learning, which is AI plus computer science, that input and output. But still it takes someone with pretty in-depth knowledge to be able to control it and to be able to
interpret it.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So, and just like what you were saying, where you can get away with less effort to be able to rank in the past, and now it's becoming, more in depth and more complex. I think it's going to continue to take, a comprehensive and, really in depth understanding to be able to stay above, the competition with all these changes.
It should be welcome and adopted. This is ultimately making it better for people that are using search engines to find the information they're looking for. And there's some industries you're going to be negatively affected. It will take over people's jobs. But as you said, there's always going to be have a need for someone to interpret the data because it's just giving you data. You still have to interpret it. You have to break it down. You have to figure out what the data is telling you.
Right. And even for like setting up Google Analytics accounts, and this is just one example, but you really have to know, like you can set up the basics, but there's a big difference between the basics and like a comprehensive tool that you have to, the tool is only as powerful as the user basically.
Right.
I think that's going to continue to be the case, even though they're becoming more tools that are more user friendly or that, maybe people can use with an introductory level knowledge. But I think there'll be a continued divide between that and the, true experts, I guess.